There are three types of Bezier curves that I'll be talking about. First of all, the linear one, then the quadratic, and then the cubic one, because all of these are used in the calculation of the cubic one, right? So, firstly, we'll talk about a linear Bezier curve. So, as you can see, this is a Bezier curve. Now, I make a line, right? This is a linear Bezier curve. It has two anchor points. So, the start point, wait. So, this start point and this end point, these are my two anchor points, right? So now if I want to make a um, curve with a control, wait. Yeah, so now if I want to make a quadratic one, it will have these two anchor points plus one control point. There is a specialty of the Bezier curves. They have anchor points and control points. Every Bezier curve has two anchor points, and they have control points depending on how many additional points you add, right? So a quadratic curve will have one control point, a cubic one will have two, and if you want, you can add as many control points as you want. But for now, we are gonna tackle the cubic one because we were tasked to make a cubic Bezier curve. So now I'll make a quadratic Bezier curve, which will basically be like this. So what this means is there's this anchor point, this anchor point, and the control point. I think it was around here somewhere. So what this means is that basically I have so now okay. So look at this. So sorry about that line. Anyways, what this means is that this control point and this anchor point has a line. The line between them is tangent to the Bezier curve that you see here. So is this line, but sorry about the free draw. I'm kind of bad. This is my mouse, so just ignore that. Just pretend this is a straight line that is okay. Wait, I'll make one. A straight line that is tangent to my uh, Bezier curve, and it connects these two points. This is what this means. So now I can add as many control points as I want, as I mentioned earlier. So let's first make a few control points before doing anything else. So this is my anchor point. This is my second anchor point. There's a control point, and this can be another control point. Right now I'll make my cubic Bezier curve. So these two anchor points connect. Then I drag it to the first control point right here, and then I drag this to the second control point right here. So this makes a Bezier curve with these two as control points and these two as anchor points. So now the math behind this is basically using something called a LERB formula to begin with, right? So the formula for a 1D Bezier curve and the LERB formula, they're the same formulas. So what it basically means is that so what happens in a Bezier curve is that we have divisions, right? So let's say a whole Bezier curve has a distance of 100, right? 100% is the distance. Like over here in this Bezier, in my Bezier curve class, I have kept a final value of 1, which represents 100%, right? So this is just percentage, the ratio of it. So it's 1, right? So then I have a delta value. This delta value tells me that how many divisions, how much each division on the line, or the distance of the between anchor points, how many divisions, how much distance of the divisions will be. So let's say if 0.2, the value of delta is 0.2, and distance percentage is 1, right? So because it's 100%, 0.2 means 20%, which means it will have 5 divisions, each being at 20% of the way. So basically like this, if I have like these two are anchor points, right? Pretend I'm drawing a straight line. So yeah, 1, 2, and 3. So I'll have like 5. Pretend this is a straight line. Just ignore my Picard drawing. The straight line. It has 2 anchor points, and this is a linear curve which has 5 divisions, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So what this does is it makes a curve. Sorry, it makes a line which has 5 divisions, right, which is used in the formula. So when I make the linear curve, yeah, the linear curve, I have a value of delta, and it's being incremented. It increments from 0 to like distance percentage. Ignore this, is just because Java has an error bug which doesn't let me go to my distance percentage value, so I add a float value here so I can get there. Anyways, I added delta value to it. So this is basically how many portions I have of the line. What happens is I start from x1 and y1, and I move to x2 and y2, which is using the lerf formula to calculate where my next points will be, right? And it is using this I, which is basically my percentage value, which is basically like if the value is 0.2, it will first be 0.2, then 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then eventually 1, right? So 0 to 0.2 is being drawn right now, 0 to 0.2, and then my 0.2 values will be substituted here in my x1 and y1, and then this will become 0.4, and then from 0.2 to 0.4 line will be drawn. So this way a whole line is drawn from 0 to 1 by making it first from 0 to 0.2, then 0.2, 0.4, and so on, right? This is what's happening over here. This might not make much sense right now, but it eventually will when I move on to bigger values, right? Sorry, bigger curves like the quadratic one. So let me change my delta value to show exactly what I mean right now. So when I change my delta without like when I change my delta value, the curve will become less smooth because it will have lesser points in between which are separating it, right? Which are separating the two anchor points. So a line will run from 0 to 0.2, then 0.2 to 0.4, 0.4 to 0.6, 0.6 to 0.8, and 0.8 to 1. That will just make 5 lines, and it will be a very unsmooth curve. So right here I've kept the value of float at 0.05, so it's making a lot of lines. But if I change this to, let's say, 0.2, what it does is, let me just rerun my thing. What it will do is, now you'll see a very unsmooth curve. If I draw a Bezier curve, and look at this, it has 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, each being 20% of the distance of like x and y say calculate karke, right? So if I change this now to 0.1, you'll see it being significantly better, but still it will have just 10 lines, so it won't be as smooth as the 0.51. So now this has 10 lines. You can count, you can pause the video and count them if you want, right? So as you can see, it's smoother than before, but it's still not as smooth as one would like. And when I keep it at 0.05, it's smoother. Like this, it's much smoother than before. It has 20 line divisions now, which are enough for our visual pleasing at least this scale. Yeah, that's good enough for this scale. Anyways, so now what I'll do is, first I'll check the time. It's at 9 minutes. Okay, so now I explained how my math is working, right? So for the linear one, what we do is we take the lerf formula, and we just for the linear one, the lerf formula is basically the formula for the linear Bezier curve. For the quadratic one, however, what we do is we like take this. Wait, sorry, I wrote that. I wait. Okay, this is what this. Okay, what this is basically I drew a very small line and then did this. So that's fine. That happened. So ignore that. Anyways, um, uh, let's say I have a Bezier curve right here, quadratic one. We all know that it has these two lines, these two linears, which are going from anchor point 1, anchor point 2, and control point 1, right? So these are two linears. Now a left formula takes in 2 points and gives us a resultant point, right? So first we'll use these 2 points to get a resultant point for this linear, and then we'll use these 2 points to get a resultant point for this linear. Now we have two resultant points, right? This is point P and this is point P that I have here, right? These are my two resultant points. Now what I'll do is basically I'll use these two resultant points in a Lerb formula again, right? So I put this point and this point again in a Lerb formula, and I get a third resultant. That third resultant will be my like, for example, the x2 and y2 for my quadratic curve, right? So x1 y1, x2 y2, then x2 y2 here, then x2 y2 here, and so on, as like depends on what the delta is, right? And similarly for the cubic one, I'll have two quadratics. I'll show it right here. Again, I did that again. I did the dot thingy again. I did this. I did this. I click. You can see the small dot right here, and then this, and then this. This is making a Bezier curve for like a very small line. Like I've made this line, and this is my Bezier curve. This is what this is doing. So yeah, I'm accidentally clicking, so that's happening. Anyways, so I make a line, a 3D Bezier curve, right? Now I have two anchor. Now I have anchor points here, 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 and here, for example. Now I can see that I have two quadratics, right? This is one quadratic, and let's say this is the second quadratic, right? Obviously it won't be like this, it won't be touching the control points, but like just for the heck of it I'm explaining. So AP1, CP1 and CP2 are my first quadratic, CP1, CP2 and AP2 are my second quadratic. I'll use these to get 2 points. We get 1 point from the quadratic, right? From each quadratic by lerping everything. So we get 1 point from for the first quadratic and 1 point from the second quadratic, and then we lerp these together to make the 3D Bezier curve. Alright, and this is what's happening in the maths too. So I have this draw quadratic. For this I'm doing using like this is double lerping, lerp. These are the two linears, and this is lerping to get me the quadratic points for x and y, right? And for the cubic 2, I'm getting 2 points q1 and q2, and using those, using the same get quadratic this thing to get two quadratic points, and then using those two, I'm getting the x2 and y2 value for the cubic one, right? I have written the comments right here. You can read these if you want. Like pause the video and read these if you want. This is just what I said, but written down, right? Anyways, so yeah, okay. The time is almost up, so let me just quickly explain what I'm doing here. So basically there's a Bezier click count, and it draws the Bezier curve depending on what the click count is. If the click count is 1, it will draw a linear one. If the click count is 2, it will draw a quadratic one. Click count is 3, it will draw a cubic one. And when we go down in the mouse release section, when the click count is 1, I just store the shape for at least temporarily, or not even temporarily, it's stored just in case someone decides to switch the shape. So if someone switches the shape on the linear one, it will keep the linear one in the linked list, right? And the same for the quadratic one, and then the cubic one. Finally, each time I put a new curve in, I remove the last one, so the linear one will be removed when the quadratic one is made. So yeah, that's how everything works in my